Sibongile, welcome. Thanks for giving us your time tonight.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Bagazi, for making sure I make it. Thank you.
When did you realize that you could sing?
Phew. When I was a child, I sang in a little kiddies choir with Auntie Emily. We called her Auntie Emily Mutsielwa. And it just became like something that I did, because, well, I suppose I could, because at home it was the done thing.
Mm-hmm.
But let me think. When I was in matric or getting ready to go to university, and choices had to be made about tertiary education, ultimately that's the choice I went for. That being a doctor, being a nurse, story ultimately didn't work because I was terrified of blood.
Yes, so that would be a limitation.
Serious limitation. Yes, yeah.
So when was the moment? Okay, so you sang in a choir and you said that happened around your family, a very musical family. When then was the moment when maybe somebody said to you, not only can you sing, but you can sing?
Ooh,
you can sing very well.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think when I was actually, what is the equivalent now? When I was in standard 6, standard 7 in high school. So that would be grade 8, grade 9, thereabouts. Because then I was made to sing a solo in one of the competition songs that one of the teachers at school made me do. I'm trying to think. Yeah, standard 6, standard 7. That was Orlando West High School.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you use the expression, the teacher made me do it.
Yeah.
Were you a child not putting yourself forward when they said, who wants to sing the solo? Your hand wasn't up?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't think I really could sing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I loved singing, I loved doing it, but it's not necessarily something I chose to do at that stage. Who wants to sing after school when other kids are playing soccer, playing basketball, playing netball, kicking ball in the streets, playing marbles, running around and doing other interesting things? No.
Having fun.
Absolutely.
Your website has an interesting quote from your father, the great music student and contributor to music, Professor Kabi Ngoma. And the quote describes his profound belief that no music belongs to some and not to others. What was that all about? What message was he sharing in the home, either verbally or just by the music he would put on the record player?
He believed that all children, any color, any hue, have a right to be exposed to music, to the arts generally, but to music particularly, because somehow making music, exposing children to music, firstly, you're exposing their brains. Is it the right or the left brain? I can never remember.
I'm not too sure.
But the mechanical side, the intellectual, academic side, is one aspect of a child's development, or developing that side of the brain is one aspect of a child's development. But no, that's the left brain. The right brain, kids need to be exposed to all music, all kinds of music. All children deserve that, because it brings a balance to their lives. It brings a balance to their perspectives. It brings a balance to how they view the world. It's kind of like a holistic approach to education, or to educating and developing a child. So all music belongs to all children. He believed it then, I believe it now, and it's just how it is.
Was he also saying something in the context of a South Africa that assigned severe limitations to African people and saying, well, go off and beat your drums, but don't come anywhere near Verdi?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, he made a very, in 1987, I think, or thereabouts, he made a very cheeky statement, one could say, that, music educators, because of how they boxed kids according to their ethnic and racial groups, were actually perpetuating apartheid. By putting children into those boxes, they were actually being agents of the state then. So his firm belief was that children just needed to be exposed to anything, and I mean, to any kind of music. And what better way of proving it now than seeing all these youngsters that stand out there and do all this amazing opera with these amazing instruments that are their voices, and just excel. They're excelling anywhere and all over the world with their instruments. The youngsters that do jazz today are proving that that belief and that philosophy. The only challenge now, of course, is that we don't see much of what I choose to call indigenous music, because somehow it's still seen as an unsophisticated way of making music, but in fact it's not, because that is the essence and the base of the music that we create, the music that we compose, the music that we share with the world.
Let's spend some time on that, since you brought it up. I mean,
Okay.
a huge moment would have been the opera Princess Magogo Kadini Zulu, and at the time you said it was not just a tribute to this great contributor to our culture, but also a tribute to your parents. I saw an interview with you after the opera took to the stage.
Yeah.
Why do you think we don't value that music sufficiently? Is it that people don't know enough about it? Or is it seen as the music that people listen to at home, but they look for something else in a performance space? What is it?
I think if we were still listening to that music, whether it's on the radio or at home, we would have more people wanting to hear it. Isn't it? I just find it quite unbelievable that in 2015, in 2013, in 2012 in South Africa, post-democracy South Africa, we hear less of our languages, our native languages, than we did before 94. And that's part of the challenge. Part of the challenge is, people get intimidated by having to speak their Zulu or Xhosa or Shangana or Tswana or whatever language group they belong to. And so because I sense that because they're terrified of being exposed for not understanding their very languages, they'd rather pretend it's something that they don't really like. Whenever one has played the music of Princess Magogo, the original music of Princess Magogo, to young people, there's always that curiosity. What is that, ma? And I say, well, it's the music of Mtana Mkhulu Magogo Kadini Zulu. Why? What does it bother you? No, that's a lovely melody. Oh, that's an interesting approach to melody. Things like that. I see this with young people I work with as well. It's just part of that shunning something that you feel not quite in control of.
Yes.
And so you kind of like move away from it, and you step away from it.
Without perhaps having ever known it properly.
Without even ever having known it properly. I think also it's also this sad state of affairs where the powers that Pella, you need to remember that apartheid is a very self-perpetuating. Is it a philosophy? What is it? I don't even know what it is. But it's something that has been so effective in making people believe in that which is not themselves. So when you believe, when you promote your own language, I'll stay with the language for now, because language is a very clear and very deep and very important indicator of who you are. So the fact that we don't know our proverbs, our idioms, we don't celebrate our music, where a lot of these, where in a lot of these are located, we have a problem. We don't know what's going on. We then opt for what seems to be accessible. We think we understand English, but we don't even understand or know, for instance, where what the origins of its use is. When one goes on Google, for instance, to get the meaning, you put in meaning of whatever the word, they will tell you Middle English, Old English. I haven't seen that with my own. Maybe it's because I haven't searched for it in Google. I don't know. But you never find that outside of the so-called what do we call them? I don't want to call them supremacists just yet, or on this platform. But those people that took charge of the world and made us belong to them, so to speak. Coming back to the question, why don't we know this music? Why don't we listen to this music? The other part of it, I think, could be that we just are lazy. Maybe we're just lazy to learn. We're lazy to find out what's going on inside of ourselves. Or maybe we're scared to find out what's happening inside of ourselves. Maybe we're scared of being called nationalists. Maybe we're scared of being called tribalists. Maybe we're scared of being called whatever other descriptor might be used to point out what it is that we are, who we are, where we come from, where we're going to. And how do we know where we're going to unless we know where we're coming from? And now we're wanting to learn Mandarin. Come on, guys. Listen, when I was a young adult, I tried to learn French. I failed.
Yes.
Because up until that point, I had tried and hadn't quite gotten around to cracking the English language. And now I want to go into that whole tonality thing and sounds and nuances and how it goes. Now I'm almost 60. When does it end? When does it end? Because I can't speak Venda, I can't speak Chivenda, I can't speak Shangana. I can't. I've tried learning, I have failed. And instead of looking, I'm not saying we must be inward looking, no. But let's look at things that matter as well. Things that make us the people that we are.
I want to ask you about, and we'll come back to some of these issues because you've put a lot on the table, but I want to ask you about being a performer.
Yeah.
When you take to the stage, do you know when the audience is with you fairly quickly? And if you've got to work that audience, when they applaud you at the end, do you feel joy or do you sometimes feel relief that it's just been a tough night and these people were cold or whatever?
Oh, wow. Whew. It's done. Most of the time, one knows if you're losing your audience. Because when they're with you, they're with you. And you're there with them, you know it, you feel it, you sense it, you see it.
So it's not just the applause, it's a feeling.
One person, it's a feeling. You find one person in the audience that you can zoom into. And that one person, sometimes the whole evening is about that one person in the audience who's with you, who's smiling along with you, who laughs at what you say if you say something, or that one person who's sitting there with this long face and you're thinking, oh my word.
Just for the listeners, there's a long face that Sibongile is showing us.
What am I doing? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not quite there with these people. It's a feeling as well. You sense it. But you have to sense it. If that feeling, if that energy, that emanate, that what how do you say that goes between both of you,
A connection.
the connection that
Yeah.
you have with this person, it has to be there. If it's not there, then you know
Did
it's
you
not happening.
did you find over your career that you became less nervous, less scared, or was there always a movement of butterflies in your stomach as you waited to go on?
There's always a movement of butterflies. If that movement of butterflies goes, then I know it's time to retire.
Really?
Hmm.
And did it shift over time? Did you grow in confidence, or was every night a new challenge?
Some nights are less stressful than others,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't make it less pressure. That doesn't mean less pressure for you in your preparation, in your zooming in into what you are about to do on stage. It becomes important also to be aware of that as you try and relax into the moment, because obviously you learn how. Okay, let me put it this way: you learn how to be less apprehensive. You learn.
Yes.
Because you learn. One of the things I learned also somewhere in the middle was that people come out to enjoy what you're doing. People don't come out to sit there and criticize you
And be
and
disappointed.
make you feel
Yes.
and make you feel stupid. And people wouldn't pay their hard-earned cash
Yes.
unless they are serious sadists or something like that. But for the most part, people come out there because they're out for a good night. People come out because they're out to be entertained, because they want to hear what you have to say to them.
I want to ask you about a gap. 1992, you're performing to considerable acclaim, and that builds up. But it took you another 4 years to get into a recording studio, and there must have been people coming to you, particularly as music was less accessible then as it is now, and
Sure.
saying, Sibongile, where's the album? And what did you wait deliberately, or was it circumstantial?
I was looking for a deal that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a record label, record company, or people within a record company that I felt understood what I was trying to do. I was looking for a relationship that anchored me artistically, rather than a relationship that made me feel I was a recording artist and had to be controlled and told what to do. So in that time, I searched, and eventually I landed up with Lindelani Mkhize and Lazarus Sirobe at Sony Music. And so it was, no, it wasn't 4 years. It was about 2 years.
Okay.
I think. I mean, let me say from Grahamstown up until the time that recording happened. It took about 2 to 3 years, let's say, of being understood, or of
Yes.
feeling that I was understood, of feeling that I was not just a utility, a piece of creative or production.
Make us a product to sell.
Make us money.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It was not about making money, because the music I made at the time would not have made anybody any amount of money anyway.
Yes.
But I think what it was ultimately is that it said, I didn't know what. If you asked me then what a brand was, I wouldn't have been able to explain it.
Yes.
But I think that's what happened. Somehow the brand was growing. Somehow the brand was being shaped, and I guess I was getting to understand myself even more and more, and growing.
How difficult is a studio situation? Because there's energy coming out from a live audience, but
Yeah.
presumably in a studio, it's a completely different thing. There must be a lot of grind, but tell us what your experience has been.
Whew. The studio, the studio can be very static. You know, a very kind of like, you know, that line in hospital,
flat
just
lining.
goes, that flat line. That the studio can be like that. It depends. It all depends on who you have producing your work. So that relationship also becomes important. And yet the studio can also be very exciting, because when you do something and you crack it and you feel that, yes,
And you know it when it happens.
and you know it when it happens. And sometimes, funnily enough, sometimes that can happen when it's just you and the producer and nobody else. And there's a freedom that flows from just knowing that nobody's watching me, so I can be as stupid as I want to be. I can experiment as much as I want to. I can stand on my head and sing that way, or I can sit quietly behind a microphone and just sing that music and sing that line without putting strain or needing to project my voice. You know, things like that. And the magic happens, and the magic happens, and the producer or the engineer says, and you see this across the booth, you know?
Yes.
And you see this thumb and you're like, yes, 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 it happened. And that buoys you, and that makes you bring out your gut. You know, you sing from the depths of your soul, and nobody's there to judge you, and you cry, and you know, and me in those days, now it's a little less than what it was before, but being the control freak that I can be, you know, I want to be in charge. I need to know what's going on. When is it happening? And so because of that, I find it very difficult to cry, for instance. And you're sitting with somebody who just lets you let the tears flow, and you're crying and the tears are going, and it's feeling this thing, and that emotion goes into the performance, and it's just you and the producer. Sometimes the magic happens that way. So the studio, I suppose it depends, really. It depends on how you woke up that morning, whether your eggs were fried correctly or not, whether the milk was warm enough or too cold, or things like that. It can depend even on something as mundane as that.
Since you talk about tears, I was going to ask you this question. Obviously, music has brought you a huge amount of joy. Has it brought you pain, anxiety? Has it been a difficult love to have in your life?
I wouldn't have done anything else. I tried to be a researcher. I tried to be an administrator. I tried to be a teacher. I still try and teach. I tried to be everything other than be a singer. Even as I knew that being a singer is what I wanted to do. So yes, it has brought a lot of joy, a lot of joy. Just that those moments when you stand there and you take in the joy that you are giving to other people, and it's brought back, it's given back to you by an audience in the applause, or in the, sometimes you just hear dead silence and you're expecting somebody to applaud and it's not coming. Just that split second, and then they do, and there's that rapture in the room, and it's like,
is it preceded by a moment of deep fear, or do you know it's coming?
No, well, you hope it's coming. You hope it's coming. You hope it's coming. But sometimes it can be a split of a second, and you're thinking, oh my, what just happened?
And then it happens.
Yeah. And in most cases, because you don't see them, sometimes you've got your eyes closed, right? So you're not even seeing the people's expressions. Sometimes you've given them something in the middle of the song, and they respond there, and the South African audiences especially, they respond immediately to something that they really like. And at the end of the song, sometimes it's not there. And then someone said, wow, at the end of X song, you have no idea what people did. And like, oh, right. But there are times when it's terrifying to be on stage.
Yes.
You either don't remember your words.
That would be tricky.
Or you don't know where you are in the music.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, that's happened to me.
Mm.
Where you sing, you're so inside of that music, and you give so much at a particular point that and there's a gap where the band or the orchestra is going, and you're thinking, okay, where am I? What's going on? Why am I here? Because you've given so much at that time that you want the stage to open and swallow you up, or you just want to fall back and you want to fall back and just die there or something. Most times you remember just in time. Oh, and then the music goes on. But it can be terrifying. It's the most, that's rough.
I want to pick up on something you said in an interview with the Mail and Guardian in 2012, because you talk about fearfulness as a creative force, and please tell me if I've misunderstood you, but you said it all comes down to being vulnerable to music so that you can allow yourself to trust others around you.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you were saying there that that fear and that, okay, somebody's got to come and help me through this patch is part of what you love about what you do?
And at times when you're standing there and you're not sure, you're trying to work it out, you're trying to remember, you're trying to gather yourself. The musicians around you, whether it's the conductor, whether it's the band, whether it's a fellow soloist, they pick it up. And in the jazz world, it's easier to be covered like that, and the trust between people flows easier. But even in an opera or in classical music, it can happen, and it happens, where people sense that, okay, we don't know, she doesn't know where she is now. Okay, and people find a way of reminding you, of helping you, and yes, that's part of the joy of doing it, because you to be able to do that, you need to let go of the control that you always want to have of things, and it funnily enough, it goes over into your life as well.
Yes.
Other areas of your life where you just are able to be vulnerable, even to be fragile.
It doesn't all have to be perfect to be perfect. You embrace a whole lot of imperfections in a performance.
But perfection is God's work.
Yes.
We can't. Yeah, people, we try, but it's not our responsibility to be perfect. You're perfect as you are. Whatever you're doing is perfect at that point. What we need to aspire for, or aspire to rather, is a sense of achieving excellence in what we do. Now that is our responsibility. That, because God has created us in such a perfect way, we need to give back to the Creator, whether you call that Creator God, Goddess, or Goddess, whether we create that whether we call that the universe, whether we call that Usomandla, whether we call that whatever we choose to call it, we need to, our responsibility is to show our appreciation and gratitude for what has been done to us and for us and by us, by this Creator.
I want to go back to the comment of your father and this profound belief that no music belongs to some and not to others, and ask you a little bit about performing the works of Europe on European and American stages. And my question is this: is there a willingness in that world to accept that you, as an African woman, will interpret Verdi or Wagner differently to someone who comes from Poland? Or is there something of a reluctance there which says, no, this is the way to do it and it's the only way? What has your experience been of the sharing of that music?
My experience been an openness.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I haven't gone out of my way to look for how they choose to embrace what I do. I go out there to give what I have to offer, and I have found that audiences generally respond to what I've given them based on what it is that I've given them.
Mm.
We do tend to think, and perhaps it's happened to other people, I don't know. We do tend to believe or expect or think that we will be received differently to other people outside of our spaces. And somehow I haven't consciously gone out of my way to look for that in how people receive what I do. And as a result, I'm always aware of people embracing what I'm giving them, even if it's their thing. It's possible that it could be said that, maybe they are more open-minded about things, but I've also learned, or heard rather, that they tend to be very stiff and highbrow and upper whatever. They raise their noses and they don't want to be. I think in America especially, it has been said that they tend to be like that. I don't know. What I've experienced, what I have received from those audiences there has been a willingness to embrace and accept difference, however different that difference is. I have experienced. I haven't experienced it. Interestingly enough, I haven't experienced it. You know how people speak of the other. I haven't experienced it in a sense of otherness, of who or what I am. I've just experienced it as it is what it is, and we will take it for what it is.
I want to come back, Sibongile, to what you're saying about language and its position 21 years into democracy. And I want to broaden the question and ask for your view on how you think we've done in building a new appreciation, not just for culture, but for the way in which we share culture and teach it. If you were to give 21 years of cultural democracy a scorecard, what have we done well and what could we have done better?
A scorecard. I don't know that you can give culture a scorecard, really, because culture evolves in whatever direction it is being guided, I suppose.
Yes.
And again, it's another one of those situations. It is what it is. I think what I would where I would probably have a problem is in how we have tended to shy away from seriously grappling with issues of cultural diversity, cultural what's the word I'm looking for? Issues of cultural excellence, even. And say perhaps we are failing because we've tended to reduce the expression of culture in our arts according to how it manages to create jobs or not. And I don't believe that's what art should be doing. And I'm not sure that culture should do that as well. I'm not sure. What I think we need to be doing, need to have done and need to do is to say, what is this? How do we make sure that as this thing, which is culture, infuses its expression through the arts in the way that it was originally intended, which was about the balance between the left and right, brain, for an example. If because we didn't do that, we tended to ignore certain aspects of culture. Again, language in particular. And we've tended to shy away, or rather move away from protecting and protecting culture in that way, and being vigilant about what culture can and should do for the advancement of the South African nation overall. That's my sense of it. Again, because of the political space that we lived in for all these years, we let that slide because of other reasons, such as wanting to not be seen as being a culturalist in a negative way. We've tended to do that.
What about the stuff you can benchmark? Like, for example, spending on the arts, support for incubators of various kinds, be it community theatre groups or whatever. And perhaps most importantly, spending on the cultural education within schools, spending on music teachers, drama teachers. How have we done on that?
On the surface, I think we've done well.
Mm-hmm.
In a deeper way, I'm not sure, because then the question is, what is it that we are spending on exactly? What is the quality of the spending? And we can't separate that from education broadly. You know, I was thinking last night, funnily enough, it's as if I knew I was going to face this question. I was just thinking, you know, there's a huge issue, for instance, about how can the pass rate, the matric pass rate now be 30%? We worry about that. Yeah, we should worry about it, obviously, because if a child gets a pass mark of 35%, it means they don't know 65-70% of their work. That's one part of it. My question keeps arising, but even that 35%, what is inside that 35%? What is the content of what they're learning? And so even with cultural education, you know, the question for me then becomes, what are we teaching our children, in fact? What is the content of what they're learning? Yes, we talk about the need for them to learn about South African history, and, you know, we've done away with, I'm trying to think of this big history book that we were taught history from.
I can picture it. I also can't remember the name.
Yes, but it was a thick
Very
one.
large.
And my history teacher would come and stand in front of us and read out of this book and say any questions, comments, or queries. If there weren't any, he'd close the book and walk out of the class. You know, okay, there's that part, which was a different kind of South African history then. So we've dispensed with that. We've now put into the history lesson more South African history. Which South African history? I want to know. Is it the history that talks to who the victors are, who the victors want to celebrate themselves, or they believe need to be celebrated in South Africa? Or is it a broad-based, no, it's not BE, but is it a broad-based approach to a history of this country outside of the people that control this country or govern this country currently? Those are questions that occupy my mind when I get very concerned about the education of this country. What in the cultural sphere, what are we celebrating? Yes, I sing Verdi because it was important for me at the time, and it was I believe it was a valid proposition to do that, because it was important to see for myself that I could do it, but also to be seen to be able to do it, right? Today, having done that, and also keeping it in place if I want to, it's also important for me to be able to sing amahubo, to sing umagogo, to sing ushembe, to sing to do kiba, to do all kinds of cultural expressions and do them well. Because if I'm not able to do that, who must do it for me? Because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. What are these kids learning? What I find is that we may actually be limiting ourselves to what might be seen as urban expressions at the expense of a much broader and much wider and much deeper articulation of what our culture is. So, coming back to your question, have we done well with that? I can't be sure of that. I'm not sure of that. I'm not seeing enough people. I'm not seeing enough people doing music outside of what we call indigenous traditional music. Music that a good friend and colleague, Sibongile Khumalo, said, indigenous meaning coming deep from the ground. We're not doing enough of that. So I don't think we're doing that well with that stuff.
You said you've tried to do many things, and you mentioned you've been a teacher. How difficult is it when you can do something very well yourself to teach other people to do it? There must be times when perhaps a little impatience must come in, or have you recognized that, dealt with it, and found a way to share what you know and bring out the best in others?
Impatience definitely did get in the way in the early days of my teaching career. It definitely did. In fact, at times I'd get so annoyed that I would just walk away and say, okay, remain doing this, I'm coming back.
Yes.
And get distracted outside or whatever. But one learns with time that, in fact, same as a manager in a company, you need to remove yourself sometimes in the space. Remove yourself, stand back and watch and allow the exploration to happen for a learner, for a child, for a pupil. That exploration, the problem with it also is that if as a teacher you don't infuse a kind of curiosity and inquisitiveness in the child, then don't make that the child's problem. You are the problem. You are the one who's failing in your job, in your duty to get the child enthused enough to want to explore and find out what is going on in that lesson, in that whatever it is you're teaching.
I'm intrigued that your eldest son is a violinist, your daughter sings, your younger son is a DJ, and I wonder, when the Khumalo family gathers, who chooses the music?
Hey, they do.
Okay.
When they were younger, I could. When they're in my car, I do. In my space, it's usually my music. But when they're together, they do the things they want to do. And, if I want to spend time with them, then I'll sit there and I ask what they consider to be stupid questions. No, ma, you can't say that. You can't ask that. How, ma? And then they all look at me like, how?
So what's an example of a stupid question? I'm struggling to imagine.
Well, so what is... They'll have a discussion about an artist. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, so what do they do? Is that a...
like, who is that?
Who is this? Is it a... So what's the difference between hip-hop and kwaito? I used to ask questions like that. What's the difference between... Is he a rap artist? Is he a kwaito artist? What is he? And they look and they want to... They respond quickly and brush me aside.
As if you're a foreigner asking for directions.
Are you with me? Yes. I'm an Englishman in New York kind of thing. I'm walking with both my left feet type thing. No, but trust me, you have to. I'm sure you've got kids, right?
I have grandkids. Yeah.
Oh well, I have that too.
Yes.
But your children are your best indicator of whether you've got it all sussed or not. Your children are the best indicator of how. Oh Lord. Okay, sorry. Your children are the ones who will look at you as you walk through the door, and they say, "So why are you dressed like that?" They
Yes.
give you that long side look. Why are you dressed like that? Why are you walking like that?
Is that not revenge for all the years when they walked in and you said, "Why are you dressed like that?" Is this not just the tables being turned?
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Payback time.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I know that I was sharing a thing the other day on Facebook about how what I call bumper sticker wisdom. That's something that says grandkids are your reward for not strangling your kids.
Okay.
Are your reward. Grandkids are your reward for not strangling your kids.
Yes.
And sometimes your children do that to you.
Yes.
They can be strange creatures.
I want to ask you about being a creative person in something as emotional as music, in a country that goes through a lot of huge ups and downs. And I suppose I'd word the question like this: is it different making music in the shadow of Marikana as opposed to the time of the World Cup, as opposed again to a time of sadness but not necessarily anger, like Madiba's death? How do all those forces in the environment shape you as a creative person? It must touch you all the time.
And as a result, because it touches one all the time, with age I've learned to choose my battles. I've learned to focus on things that I can talk to and things that make sense to. But it's also true that I've had to, that you can rather, you can be drawn into something as distant in a way as the death of a Whitney Houston, say, for argument's sake. I remember how sad I felt when the announcement came that she had died. I mean, it was so unexpected and so sudden, even as we knew of some of the struggles she had to wage on a personal level. And so you get pulled into that, and you need to then work out, how do I navigate the space? How do I go in between, walk through the maze, as it were? And somehow you find a way. You find yourself out of that. You look at the death of the people in Marikana, and of the guys in Marikana, and the anger simmers inside of you, and you're thinking, but why did this have to happen? You look at the death of somebody like Andries Tatana, whose death we saw on television, and yet nobody is held responsible. And you feel angry, and you create music that I choose to create music that helps us transcend that negativity, because it's very easy to write stuff that zooms in on the negativity and keeps you there. And yet, as an artist, as a creative being, even as I need to talk to those issues and talk about those occurrences, I also believe that my role, my responsibility is to help myself and all of us to transcend that negativity and find meaning in that horror. Social media has been one of the most powerful entities, powerful creations of our times, and yet it is also the most destructive development to our sanity. It's you go into social media, you come across some hecticness there. You come across people who are there every day simply because they must troll the world. Literally, they are not trolling just you. You become their means to an end, but they're just there because it's their job. They feel to constantly being like
share their unhappiness.
So the decision then, for me personally, and I know quite a few of my colleagues who choose not to go on social network because otherwise you don't live, nothing happens. And the dangerous thing also about social networks is that because people are on social networks all the time, they think they are alive, they think they have lives, they think they have something to do, and they have nothing to do. All they're doing is being on social networks. Before my daughter put me on Twitter, for instance, I used to ask her, but Ayanda, explain it to me. How is it that people have so much to say? When do they say it? When do they actually say it? On Twitter. And she said, no, because they sit literally with their phones and you see their fingers going like that the whole time. I said, I don't understand. And I really did not understand what she was talking about. And then I got addicted, and I went through that whole process, that whole phase of just being on Twitter and checking and following what people are doing and saying, and discovering 2 weeks later that I hadn't produced a document I was supposed to have produced and submitted to somebody for something.
A severe addiction, albeit brief.
It's hectic.
Yeah.
So you have to choose, as they say, choose your battles, choose the spaces you want to be on, the platforms you want to be on. Choose what stories you want to share, actually. Some people have Facebook accounts simply because they want to motivate others, and it's fabulous to have people like that. So when you've had all these 3,000 friendship requests, it's very important, I believe. I find I need to go into that person's timeline and check what are they doing, and you find other people have hundreds of pictures and they're not saying anything. So you're going to be my friend for what? Why do I want to be looking at your pictures? I mean, what do I gain by doing that? That's my choice. And sometimes people go on on your page because, I guess, like I said earlier, they want to troll you, and they sit there and they pigisa. What is pigisa? Anything you say, they go against it. Anything you say, they go against it. And you're thinking, oh, am I being stupid? Oh, sorry. And you feel like you need to apologize. But something helps you wake up and get around it. And you're thinking, but no, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, go away. Get off. Go. Bye. I'm done with you. And I've had to do that a couple of times. Sometimes people go on your Facebook page because they think you look nice, so they want to be your friend. No. Help me grow. At almost 60, I still want to learn something.
I want to end by giving you 3 wishes, which I have no power to grant, but here we go. What's your wish for our country?
What is my wish for our country? My wish for our country is that we can re-language and get past the negativity that imbues or that is embedded inside of our narrative. We just need to get past that. My wish for this country is to reclaim our ability to dream and dare to be great, because I believe we are a great nation. We saw this. We worked together to get past a very debilitating milieu before 94. It hasn't ended, but we were given a glimpse of what it was like, what it could be like to be that way. My wish for this country is to be able to restore the depths of the beauty of our culture generally. And when I say our culture, I'm talking specifically about the heritage, particularly of the Black black man and woman, because those lessons, that music, that poetry, that art, paintings, sculptures, all of that have a reason. There's a reason why that stuff was created, and the lessons in there are very important. We need to find a way to restore that articulation for the country, for this country to be what it really can be. And I know that a lot of times people say, when you say black, and okay, maybe I should not use the word black and use the word African, and I mean African in the deepest sense and the deepest meaning, rather, of the word.
What's your wish for people who make music, for our musical culture?
What is my wish for people? That we can, that we we must strive to be the best we can be, that we know how, without necessarily wanting to be like somebody else out there. We in fact, going back to the wish for the country generally, one of my greatest wishes, which I forgot to mention, is we need to embrace ubuntu betu. I'm talking of African humanism specifically, where we do what we do not with the intention to exploit others for only our material acquisitions or otherwise, that we must just be the people, the African humans, that the best of that we can be. Do the thing that you do so well that you become that thing. That's what I wish for the musician in this instance, based on the premise of Ubuntu.
And lastly, what's your wish for yourself?
My wish for myself, that I continue to grow and learn and be comfortable within my skin more, and be okay and be content with the world that I live in, with my children, with my family, with my friends, with the people who anchor me. That one day I'll find a man again and be happy in that way, that way. No, scratch that out. But that I will have I could have a loving relationship with a partner again, because I had a very good man in my younger days, and I was so embroiled in wanting to be the success that I think I became, according to my terms, that it would be good to grow old, really old, with somebody else who will understand that, who will support that, who will allow space for that, and somebody that I can reciprocate that feeling for. Yeah.
It's been a wonderful hour. Thank you very much,
It has been
Sibongile
an
Khumalo.
hour. Oh wow! Thank you, John, for having me. Thank you.